I sat at my kitchen table yesterday staring at a crumpled receipt for $12.45. It wasn't a huge amount. It wasn't a car payment or a blown tire. It was just a sandwich and a coffee. But looking at that piece of paper, I felt a heavy knot in my stomach. Why? Because it was the third day in a row I had looked in the mirror in the morning and promised myself no discretionary spending today. And it was the third day in a row I had failed by noon.
No,
I felt
no,
like a
I
liar.
failed
Not
again.
to a bank or a creditor or a partner, but to myself. And honestly, breaking a promise to yourself hurts the worst. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here's exactly what happened. The frustration wasn't really about the $12. It was about this pattern of inconsistency. I call it the inconsistency trap. I spend hours setting up these perfect color-coded spreadsheets. I download the best budgeting apps. I link my bank accounts. On paper, or I guess on screen, I look like a financial genius. I have the plan. But then real life hits. I get tired. I get stressed at work. And when I'm standing in line at the cafe, I'm not thinking about the spreadsheet on my laptop at home. I'm thinking, I deserve this. And poof, the plan is gone. I realized this week that my problem isn't knowledge. I know that spending less than I earn is the math. My problem is friction. The digital tools I was using were invisible. They were hidden inside my phone, buried behind a passcode in 3 clicks. And honestly, every time I opened those apps, I felt bad. They just showed me red numbers and negative signs. They were stress machines. I started feeling like I was just spinning my wheels. I'd have one good day where I saved $5, followed by 3 bad days where I ignored the budget completely because I felt guilty about the first slip-up. It's this cycle of shame that keeps me broke. I needed a way to break that cycle that didn't involve another app or another complicated password. I needed to get out of the screen and into the real world. I needed something so simple, so stupidly basic that I couldn't mess it up. So I did something that felt a little ridiculous. I closed my laptop. I put my phone in the other room. I went into that messy junk drawer in the kitchen. You know, the one with the dead batteries and the takeout menus. And I dug around until I found a box of standard silver paper clips. Then I grabbed 2 empty glass jars that used to hold pasta sauce. I washed them out, dried them, and set them right on my desk, right next to where I usually sit and stress about my bank account. I labeled the jar on the left potential. I labeled the jar on the right progress. I dropped 10 paper clips into the potential jar. Here was the new deal I made with
It's a
myself.
pleasure doing business
Every
with
time I
you.
made a conscious choice to save money, whether that was making coffee at home, skipping the takeout, or just closing a shopping tab on my browser, I got to physically move one. Paperclip from the left jar to the right jar. I know. It sounds like a kindergarten arts and crafts project. I felt silly even setting it up. I'm a grown adult, right? I should be able to manage my finances with discipline and willpower, not with office supplies. But remember, my adult willpower had failed me 3 days in a row. So I was willing to try the kindergarten method. Wednesday morning was the first test. I was heading out the door and the urge to hit the drive-thru was automatic. It's not even that I was hungry, it was just the routine.
Our
My
debt
brain
is
started making
skyrocketing while
excuses.
savings plummet.
You're
We
tired,
need
you
to
need the
take
energy, it's
drastic
just
action
$5.
before it's too late.
But then I pictured the jar. I realized that if I bought the breakfast sandwich, that paperclip on my desk had to stay in the potential jar. It would just sit there, stagnant. But if I ate the oatmeal I had already bought, I would get to come home and move the clip. It sounds insane, but that tiny physical reward was enough to break the trance. I drove past the drive-thru. When I got home that evening, I sat at my desk. I reached into the left jar, grabbed a cold metal paperclip, and dropped it into the right jar. Clink. That sound? It was weirdly satisfying. It wasn't a digital notification. It wasn't a green check mark on a screen that disappears when you lock your phone. It was a physical object taking up space in the win column. I could see it. I could hear it. By Thursday, I was actively looking for ways to move clips. I found myself pausing before buying a random ebook I didn't need. Clink. I brought leftovers for lunch instead of going out with coworkers. Clink. Let's look at the actual numbers because the clips represent real math. Over the last 4 days, I moved 7 paper clips. Each of those clips represented an impulse purchase I usually make. Average cost about $8. That's a coffee and a muffin or a quick snack
As
or
you
a
can
digital
see,
rental.
7 multiplied by 8
7
gives us
clips
a
x 8
positive
plus
56.
56
Clearly
$56. That is real money. That is my internet bill. That is half a week of groceries. And looking at the progress jar now, it doesn't look empty. It looks half full. The jar is visually proving to me that I can be disciplined. The spreadsheet just told me I was broke. The paper clips tell me I'm building something. And the fascinating thing is what happened on Friday when I didn't move a clip. I bought a soda at the gas station. Total impulse. I came home, looked at the jar, and I couldn't move anything. There was no shame, no red flashing light, no angry email. Just silence. The jar stayed the same. It made me want to get back on track immediately rather than giving up on the whole week just because of one mistake. The system wasn't judging me, it was just waiting for me to win again. The biggest lesson I learned from staring at these 2 jars isn't really about office supplies, it's about how our brains actually work. For years, I thought my problem was that I was bad with money. I
As we can
told
see
myself
here,
I
when
just didn't
discipline
have
is
the
missing
discipline
from our
gene.
financial approach.
But watching that pile of paper clips grow in the right-hand jar proved me wrong. I do have the discipline. I just wasn't getting any credit for it. When we swipe a credit card, we don't feel the pain of spending. And when we don't buy something, we don't feel the joy of saving. It's all invisible. It's all just numbers floating in the cloud. This silly paperclip strategy works because it makes the invisible visible. It gave me a dopamine hit, a literal chemical reward in my brain, for doing the boring, responsible thing. Every time I moved a clip, I felt a tiny rush of pride. I wasn't just not spending money, I was building a stack. It reframed the whole journey from deprivation to accumulation. I wasn't losing out on a coffee, I was gaining a win. This is exactly what the atomic finance philosophy is about. It's not about waiting until you pay off $10,000 to feel good. If you wait until the finish line to celebrate, you're going to run out of gas at mile 2. You have to celebrate the 1% steps. You have to find a way to high-five yourself for the small, boring decisions you make on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm keeping the jars on my desk. They remind me that the big number, that debt-free goal, is just made up of thousands of tiny metal clips. It's just one decision at a time, move from one jar to the other. My 1% mission for tomorrow is to take the 8 I saved from skipping that breakfast sandwich and physically move it into my high-yield savings account. That's it. Just one transfer. What is your 1% step? Will you find 2 jars and start tracking your wins? Let me know in the comments below. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.